and yeah, what you involved in, and why you accepted Brother John's short.
Invitation.
Yes, he's almost immediate invitation, because it was just moments ago he indicated to me, that he would like to bring you on. So tell us something, Miss Amanda Coombs. Hello.
Amanda?
Oh, oh.
Okay,
And I see too that Angela Gooden
yeah,
is saying that
yeah. Mhm.
she isn't hearing anything.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. She
I'm
says she's
hearing.
answering, but it appears that we're not hearing her.
Oh, I see her Angela have her hearing thing. Ask her to unmute. Ask her to okay. Angela unmute and
Okay.
also
Okay.
okay.
So we see Dr. Ferguson is back.
Okay.
So
All right.
Dr. Ferguson, is it possible for you? What about the video? Can you get on video?
Angela.
Dr. Ferguson, no video, no audio. Oh no.
Wow.
What's happening today, Thursday?
I know,
Murphy is really misbehaving,
Even today, I tell you.
Why should Murphy be behaving like that today?
Hi.
Hi,
Hi, can you
Angela.
hear me
Hello.
now?
Yes, we can.
Yes, I'm
Yes, we
hearing
can.
Hi.
Angela.
Okay.
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 So tell us who is Angela
Alrighty.
Golding.
Yeah, tell us
Yes,
who is
who is
Angela
Angela
Golden.
Golding, and what's Angela involved in that would have caused Brother John to find it necessary for you and your colleague to be here this afternoon as we're speaking about nature therapy.
Okay. Well, it's doing community work, and that's where our hearts are. Assist Amanda when she goes out to do mental health training to various communities regarding mental health, and what she teaches is mental health first aid. And that is all about mental health and how to recognize mental health, how to seek help, where to seek help, and she teaches tools how to manage mental health issues, and recommend people seek help when they realize that they're not able to function on a daily basis, and things are not going very well. Not to just sit on it and hope it's going to go away, because it's not going to go away by itself. So she arms them with the tools in which to recognize and where they can seek help to get better, whether it's for them, their family, or friends, and also tools how to assist friends and family, and even a stranger if you go somewhere and someone is experiencing a breakdown of some kind, how to really be able to approach and when to approach, and procedures. So she does those very often in communities, and lives are being saved, and people, family are being healed because of now they have tools how to help themselves, because we know a lot of the teenagers or young people and even adults, they're experiencing mental health and they don't recognize it. People just think they're just misbehaving. Meanwhile, it's chemical and maybe it's physical. And so these courses are really, really good, especially being taught in the communities and especially to youth, where maybe they don't have that kind of support at home or school. And so it's like she's had hundreds now of classes where assists, and I could see that changes are coming in the communities that she teaches these things. And for me, it's important because I also have that passion in terms of self-care and to help people. So, we're a good team, and we care about people. We're compassionate and empathetic with people. because anything can happen to any of us at any time where we have breakdowns. And so if we have tools or we can assist with people in the community, I believe it's a great thing to make changes. And it really begins at home. And so if we can teach parents and adults and teenagers how to cooperate with one another, I think our community should have some changes, because that will spread, so we know how to respond, we know how to communicate with one another. And we're praying and hoping that will spread and change lives.
So
And for me,
essentially, are you saying that the people that you work with are generally mental health patients?
No, we teach them how to deal with people with mental health, and if they have mental health, they're also receiving the same tools that they could self-care.
So how do you determine your target audience? How do you decide who is to be approached with that program? Hello, mic is muted. Seeing as it is
Angela
not
is
specific, seeing as
Okay.
Amanda, yes, seeing
Amanda
as
is
it's
here.
not, yeah, seeing as it's not specifically targeted to people who have known mental health challenges, how do you determine who should be approached and who should not be?
It's for everyone, whether you have mental health issues or not. It's for everyone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's
Okay.
it's to arm people that maybe have family members or they just want to learn more to be able to help people themselves or help themselves. So it's not targeted just to people who experience mental health. It's for people to learn tools how
You
to
mentioned-
assist people experiencing mental health.
Okay. You mentioned about young people. Have you found
Yes.
in your work that there's any I should ask the question the other way. What percentage would you say of your target group or the people that you work with would you say are young people who have that kind of experience?
I would leave that question for Amanda to answer because she's the teacher and I assist.
Okay, Miss Amanda Coombs. Well,
I think Angela did a wonderful job.
Yes. Okay. Well, she
Thank
did
you.
a wonderful job, but she's just referred to you, and she thinks that you are best suited to share with us
Yeah.
about what
Yeah.
percentage, how impacting is it that young people are so affected or
So I would say,
afflicted or have these kinds of challenges that they would need such interventions as you are dealing with here. Yes, go ahead.
okay.
We are not hearing
So
you.
I would say,
Yes.
can you guys hear me? Because you're breaking up. I don't know if it's my reception or if it's
I am hearing you good.
okay, so I think it's your reception.
And you've gone again.
Yeah, Pablo, I think
Okay.
your reception is breaking up. You're freezing on one end, Pablo.
Oh,
Is it
really?
me?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know, but
no.
I'm seeing myself. It's and there's no freezing taking place on my end.
Okay, you're going and coming.
Okay.
Hold on. Okay, you're good now, Pablo. You're good. Okay, go ahead, Amanda. Yeah.
Okay. Am I still breaking up or can you hear me clearly?
No, I'm hearing you clearly.
Okay, so I would say about 80% to 90% of the people that attend the courses are youth. And we see now that, especially with the pandemic, that the incidents and the cases of people who are living with mental health disorders or problems is getting younger and younger. Not that this wasn't something that was occurring before the pandemic, but what the pandemic has done was really brought these cases into the light, right? So we find that there's more youth who are engaging in self-harm, cutting themselves as a mechanism to cope with the problems that they're facing in everyday life. We see a rise in suicides, where unfortunately youth feel like that's the only way out to get out of their circumstances. They don't feel like there's any hope possible. We see a rise in substance use disorders as well, where, you know, have a lot of youth who are overdosing, and not just on prescription medication, but on more harder substances that are addictive, highly addictive, such as fentanyl and cocaine and meth. So we see the ages decreasing, getting very, very younger for children and youth to start developing or living with a mental health crisis. And yeah, about 80% of the people that come through our program identify as youth. And we just provide them, as Angela stated, with the knowledge, the resources, and the tools that they need so they can overcome those challenges that they experience, and so that they can help others, right? And some of the feedback that we get generally when we teach the course is that, you know, I was able to go out there, I was on the bus this time, and I didn't suffer from that bystander effect where I was waiting for the next person to come to help this person that was clearly in distress. She was crying, she was screaming, and normally I wouldn't have approached that person, but after taking the course, I now feel confident to approach even a stranger to have a conversation about mental health, because I'm able to recognize the symptoms, and I'm able to have a conversation where I'm listening compassionately and I'm helping that person to resolve their issues. So the course basically just teaches individuals to recognize the symptoms for anyone who may be experiencing a psychotic disorder, a depressive disorder, anxiety or trauma related disorder, an eating disorder, a substance use disorder, or a mood related disorder, and then how to have that confident conversation with them to help them get support, maybe connected to appropriate professional help if needed, but really how to have that conversation so that person feels that they're being listened to, and help them to overcome those challenges that they're experiencing.
Wow, it's amazing that you know, the high percentage of young people that you mentioned that face these kinds of challenges, and the whole issue of doing harm to themselves. Can you
Yeah.
elaborate a bit more on that for us?
Yeah, so I currently work with in Canada. We have a team now that has been developed to respond to incidents where people are experiencing a mental health crisis. It's like an alternative to the police, because unfortunately, when the police respond, it usually ends in fatalities, where we find that people that maybe just needed a conversation or somebody to listen to them end up being fatally shot. So most of my calls that I go on are for youth. For instance, yesterday I supported a youth that had a suicide attempt. He was released from the hospital where he tried to hang himself and crushed his esophagus and his vocal cords, right? And this person is, how old is he? 18, just turned 18 years old, right? There's another incident I responded to last week with another female who tried to end her life by swallowing a bottle of prescription medication, and then others that tried to end their lives by cutting their wrists. So it doesn't have to be that severe where there is somebody that's trying to end their life. Sometimes it's just self-harm where people are pulling out their hair, they're cutting themselves, they're drinking toxic substances, they are like finding ways to punish themselves, maybe from restricting food intake and other things like that, as a way of coping with the pain that they've been experiencing in their lives. And one, I would say, correlating factor that is significant when it comes to deliberate self-injury or self-harm is sexual abuse as a child. That's one common denominator across the board that
Ah,
many of these youths have in common. And they that, like, often when I'm in my sessions with them and I ask them, why do you resort to cut-in or deliberate self-injury to inflict pain on yourself? They'll say that it's a way of taking back control of their body. It's a way of being in control of that pain that they're inflicting to themselves. And they say that they get a release. It's almost like breathing, taking a breath of fresh air. And it's a way for them to release that emotional, intense pain that they're experiencing in their lives. So it's an unhealthy coping mechanism. And through this course that we teach, we provide them with the tools to be able to resort to more healthy ways of dealing with their problems.
Well, it's interesting that you would be on here this afternoon, joining this program that we did not plan for you to be on, and speaking about this issue of the challenges that young people face. And essentially, this was intended to be the focus of Dr. Ferguson, speaking about how you get young people to have an appreciation of the environment, how you get young people to appreciate that a connection with nature has that therapeutic reaction or capability in terms of addressing some of those challenges. So at this point in time, now that we finally have Dr. Ferguson on screen with us, Dr. Ferguson, can you unmute your mic and introduce yourself to us and let us know what's going on? Let's say something about yourself, Dr. Ferguson. Can you unmute your microphone? Because no, your mic is muted. Your mic is muted, so unmute your mic, please. Your mic is muted. We're not hearing you yet. We're seeing you, but we're not hearing you. Can you please? No, we are seeing you, Dr. Ferguson, but we're not hearing you. Your mic is muted. You don't seem to be hearing us. Dr. Ferguson, you need to unmute your mic. Your mic is showing that it's muted. Let's see if I can. Oh, there he's gone
Whoever's
again.
the host can unmute the mic for him.
What's up?
You can unmute it on your end for him.
Brother John?
Trying to fix this.
Can you unmute Dr. Ferguson, because we finally have him. We're seeing him. We're seeing his mouth is moving, but we're not hearing anything from his end. I've been meaning to say that Brother John and I and others, we've been having that conversation recently, because in our culture in Grenada, when we were growing up, young people didn't commit suicide. Youth suicide was unknown when we were growing up in the 60s and in the 70s. But now we're finding that 12-year-olds and 14-year-olds are committing suicide and stuff like that. And it's interesting that you speak about they seeing that as taking control of their bodies. I mean, the damage to their bodies. But why do you think that young people would want to be ending their lives, taking a permanent decision to some of those temporary challenges that they are facing?
Well, most of my clients and I do particularly Christian counseling. So first and foremost, I'd say that they don't have a relationship with Christ, like many of the youth that I do sessions with. So therefore, they don't understand like who they are. They don't understand their identity. They don't understand the promises that God has spoken about them and over their lives. And if you don't know God, you don't have a relationship with Jesus, then what do you put your hope in? They put their hope in those temporary things that you're speaking of, Paul. The things that definitely they can overcome if they just had somebody to sit down and speak with them. And one thing that most of them share with me is that, if they end their lives, then they don't have to worry about the pain or the suffering that they're experiencing, or even what their family's going to feel after they've left, because they'll have no knowledge of that. And that's a common response that many of my youth have shared with me. And you mentioned something interesting, that in the 70s or in the 60s, that, it wasn't common for youth to hear about youth ending their lives or dying by suicide. And, you know, the statistics have been the same pretty much for the past couple of years. Here in Canada, like 1 in 5 youth, well, 1 in 5 people will experience a mental health problem within a year, and 1 in 3 in their lifetime, right? So that's a lot, right? That's like every 2 people in our workplaces. That's 1 person maybe in our families. So really getting them to understand that the mental health challenge that they're experiencing is not unique to them, that there are other many people that are experiencing the same thing too, and they're not alone, right? There's other people that are going through that, because often people feel like that issue is unique to them. I'm hearing voices. I'm feeling that I'm not worthy of love. I'm not valued. I shouldn't be here. But then there's other people that feel the same way as them. So letting them know that, you know, they're not alone. They're not the only one, and that there is help available, and there's ways for them to overcome those challenges. And I don't think that it necessarily something that wasn't being done. I think culturally we've been conditioned, especially as racialized individuals, to not speak on we're experiencing mental health issues or problems, or even maybe there might have been people who've had suicide attempts, but we're taught to keep ourselves silent, keep our business at home. And often that creates a place where youth have to suffer in silence because they're afraid to tell their parents or to tell their family members that these are the thoughts I'm experiencing. I'm not feeling well in my mind. My mental health is deteriorating. And I think it's a culturally conditioned response. And that's why the numbers seem low when they aren't really that low. And then as well, our Caribbean culture, we tend to associate a lot of the mental health issues to things that are, I would say, demonic, saying that this person is possessed or this person has some type of needs some type of spiritual cleansing. And in some cases that may be true, but in other cases, maybe that person may need some medication, and they may just need, of course, prayer, but also to sit down and do some practical things to overcome the challenges that they're experiencing. And because of the stigma as well, right? We don't talk about mental health in our culture because it's something that we've been taught to be ashamed of, right? And people already feel stigmatized when they have mental health issues. So therefore they don't want to come out and say that. And especially our young men, right? Who have been taught for so many decades, centuries, that they have to be strong, they should not be vulnerable. And when somebody's been culturally conditioned to think that way, how do you dismantle that thinking and let them know that it's okay to cry and it's okay to express how you feel?
Brother John, aren't you able to unmute Dr. Ferguson from
I'm
your
trying.
end?
I haven't seen any option, only to ask him to unmute. That's what I'm seeing here. So
because
yeah.
typically the person who is the host will have the option of muting or unmuting.
Yeah.
Unmuting.
I could mute him.
So
Well, I could mute, but I don't have the option to unmute them from the end.
Unmute him?
No.
No.
Because we've seen him.
Yeah.
And but
I ask him to unmute, and then.
Are you able to click? Can he click his unmute? Or maybe it's the settings. Maybe something's wrong with his settings. Can you?
Yeah. Well, he's here, so I guess Bobby had to. Yeah, you just have to click the mute button, the mic. Click on the mic.
You hearing us? It appears that you're hearing us. So we're seeing it showing that you are muted.
Yeah.
So is there any way that you can unmute yourself?
Yeah, hit the icon of the headpiece on your phone. On the bottom right, bottom left of your phone, you'll see an icon with your headphone on. Just click on that with the mic or headphone.
Yeah, at the bottom left, there's an icon there, and under it is. If you click on it, then you would see the line come across that said it's muted. So that's what you need to do. Yeah, we're not hearing you. I don't know what's going on.
Okay.
Yeah. So Ms. Coombs, can you tell us your therapy, the intervention that you use. Can you tell us some, you know, some of what it entails? What are the
Yes.
processes?
There's a lot of interventions, but most of all, I do a lot of like compassionate and therapeutic listening. So allowing that person to have a safe space to tell their stories, because
Mhm.
often they don't get to share what it is that they're going through, and they have to keep all of that bottled up inside. And then what happens is eventually you explode, because everyone needs an outlet, right? Everyone needs somebody to talk to check in with. It's part of our self-care regime, right? I interventions that I use are CBT, so cognitive behavioral therapy, where we discuss how they came about that way of thinking, that hopeless way of thinking, and then they get some assignments or homework assigned to them where they can go home and start to work on them, and then teach them healthy ways to think, to overcome those challenges that they're facing. Sometimes I do exposure therapy, especially for a lot of the youth I work with who have gone through the justice system and who have been institutionalized or have spent a lot of time in prison, where like we generally expose them to whatever stimuli or environment or that thing that they may become fearful of, or people who have gone through traumatic incidents due to community violence and things like that. But there's a variety of techniques and interventions and models that I do use. Sometimes I take a look at genome chart. I go through family history to look for patterns, to see, because we know that depression and suicide, it is genetic, right? And anxiety, to see, you know, if this is something that has been passed down, if it's something that's generational. Yeah, so there's a lot of different models and interventions that I use when I'm doing my
Speaking,
therapeutic sessions.
okay. Speaking of prison,
Mhm.
what kind of impact and how do you think that these experiences that these young people have, how does it impact on them that their behavior would eventually cause them to land up in prison?
I think the primary issue, especially here in Canada, that we have is poverty. And I think it needs to be addressed. And I think that's what leads to a lot of our youth getting involved in the criminal justice system. Not that they want to be involved, but they just don't have the resources or the finances to really experience a high quality of life. And we have so many studies here that actually show the disparities between Black individuals and other racialized individuals and their white counterparts, or areas that where low income families live, and the resources that they get in comparison to people that live in a high class or primarily white or dominant group neighborhood. And when you don't have the finances or the resources to thrive, or maybe you're in a single parent household where a mother is trying her best to overcome the challenges, or she's trying to raise, you know, a teenage boy, or a young man as a female by herself, that already sets up so many barriers. And often we find that some of the young men feel like they have to be the provider and they have to go out there to support their families, but then often they form these unhealthy relationships with other men in the community who they claim as their family, who have replaced now the absence of the father. And in my community particularly, I see how a lot of these children are groomed from a young age, and then they start to go out and do runs and things for the older men in the community, and then end up winding themselves up into prisons. And unfortunately here, when you get convicted of a crime, you have to wait 10 years in order to get a pardon, right? And after you wait those 10 years to get a pardon, it's over $10,000 to pay for that pardon. And what you find is that it's a revolving door, the prison system, where our young men, they're going in and then they're coming out and they're not able to get jobs because they have a record. So they go back to that life of crime in order to make an income so that they can survive. And then they're back in the prisons again. So one of the things that I do is I offer an entrepreneurial course where I go into the prisons and I teach the men how to start their own business. So it removes those barriers of them not being able to find a job, and try to get them to understand that, you know, the prison it's in, especially here in Canada, it's a form of modern day slavery, where they have these men chopping down trees, building cottages, building and paving roads for little than nothing, right? Many of them used to come late to my classes because they were engaged in this type of labor. And just to let them know that they have to free themselves from that type of mentality, and that they can overcome the challenges that they're facing, and their circumstances do not define who they are. So even though they may have grown up in, unfortunate circumstances, or not the upbringing that would have been most productive to their overall well-being, that they can change that, right? It doesn't define who they are, or their worth, or their value.
So, as you mentioned, the whole issue of the race factor, which is something that we don't necessarily have to deal with here in Grenada and in the Caribbean.
Yeah.
What percentage
Yeah.
would you say? How does it compare, the percentage of blacks to whites in this situation?
We're overrepresented in the prison system, which is an issue, and we're underrepresented in other places of influence. So we find that statistically, there might be more indigenous people, more Caucasian people, and European people that are in the prison system, but they're not represented. Therefore, Black people end up being overrepresented in the prison system, right? And that makes a lot of our young men leads to racial profiling when they're on the streets walking, being stopped by the police. It leads to stigmatization, not being able to get a job, microaggressions across the board, whether they're at school academically, or they're being employed, or in any other setting. So definitely, I don't have the exact percentage, but I will tell you that there is an overrepresentation of Black males in the prison system, and we are being underrepresented in other areas where we definitely do have a voice and we do have a presence, areas of influence in policy, in politics, in other influential positions such as deans, such as doctors, such as nurses, and engineers, but we're underrepresented in those areas.
So how successful would you say that you are being with your entrepreneurial interventions?
I would say it's very successful because we've had many men who have come out of the prison system and have started their own business. They've started their own mobile tattoo buses. They've started their own clothing business. They've also come out and been mentor. They work with me as mentors for other youth who are on their way into that same life that they're finally have been able to come out of. So I would say it's very successful because they're giving back. They come out and they're giving back and telling the younger youth, you don't want to go down this path. You don't have to.
Wow, this is
Is he still not able to log on?
No, he hasn't been able to get through. Actually, he just sent me a message. He just sent me a message saying, sorry, I have exhausted my options.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know what else.
Yeah. I think he's on here at TLO Steel, but he has no camera. The mic is off, but no camera. So, okay, here he's back. Okay, here he is now. Beautiful. Dr. Ferguson, good afternoon. I think he's he's authenticating to get him in. Yeah. Yeah, he's authenticating, connecting to, yeah, he's connecting.
Are you?
So Ms. Coombs, and how long did you say that you were involved in that program?
I started the program in 2014 after my own experience with the criminal justice system as a youth. So as a youth, I was in and out of jail. I faced many of the same similar circumstances of many of the men and young women that I work with. And it's not that those resources and tools were not out there to help me. I just didn't know how to navigate that system. So I decided to start this nonprofit to help other people who were experiencing the same challenges that I was. Yeah.
Okay, you say it's a nonprofit institution.
Yes.
So how is it financed?
through grants. So in Canada, we're able to, every year, they send out grants where you can fund different types of projects. And you write an application, you apply for that money, and then the government approves it. So I usually just write grants. Yeah.
Okay.
Dr. Ferguson, can you unmute now again? Are we seeing you?
We're seeing him, but we can't get him, and
Yeah.
to think that he is the reason why we haven't.
Yeah, I want to hear him. I want to hear him speak. I'm
he
just
is the
like,
reason that we here this
yeah.
afternoon, and he can't participate. You know,
Are you
I
at a
mean,
computer? Are you at a computer? Because I'm not at a computer. I stepped down into my car. I'm just trying to. I don't have Zoom upstairs.
Okay, Amanda, hold on. I will try to make you.
because I don't know. Typically,
can you try to make me? Can you try to make me host? But I'm not at a computer, so I don't know if I'll be able to do this from my phone. But I'll try.
Let's try and see.
Well, Brother John, make me a host and see what can happen too from my end, if that's possible.
You host and co-host.
You know.
Okay.
Are you at a computer? It's better you make him a host. Paul Raphael.
All right, I'll do that.
Yeah, since he's at a computer.
Okay. So, Ms. Golden, we haven't heard from you for a while. How long have you been associated with Ms. Combs in that program? And how do you find it to be? Is she there?
Hold on, let me see. Dr. Ferguson, can you speak now? I think you have him. Hold on. Pablo, check and see. Angela
yeah, but that's the thing. All it's saying is ask to unmute.
Yeah, that's what he's saying.
It's not giving the.
It's not allowing you to unmute him.
No, it's not. No, all it's saying is ask to unmute.
Because normally you could control the options for muting and unmuting people. Maybe it's his settings. Like if he's clicking the mic and he's not able to unmute, then it might be something. Can you ask him if he's using a headset, or if maybe he needs to unplug his headset if he's using a headset?
No, it doesn't appear that way. From what we're seeing on the video, he doesn't have any headset or anything.
Oh, it might be his settings. Is he able to dial in maybe? So at least we can hear him speak.
Yeah, ask him to
call.
Not
working this way. Can he
to call in?
Can he dial in?
Yes. Public, ask him to call in. Yeah. Okay, let me do it.
Yeah, please do that. So, moving on, Ms. Combs.
Yeah.
Now, with that program that you have, do you find that does it become necessary to use any form of medication in your treatment?
Sorry, you kind of drowned it out. Can
I asked whether it does become necessary to use any kind of medication in your treatment. Hello?
You're breaking up.
Okay.
Wow.
Yes, if you use medication
happening to me now?
in any
if
of your
there's
treatment.
any medication being used in your treatment.
I can't hear.
Okay, Amanda, are you hearing me? Amanda?
I can hear you.
Okay, ask if you use any medication in your treatment.
I do not. I'm not a psychiatrist, so I can't or a psychologist, so I can't prescribe medication. And although I do feel like medication is necessary at times, I do believe
Oh well.
Pablo.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Dr. Fiero is here, but he's still not unmuted. Angela seems to be mute. Angela is still there. Amanda is back. Amanda, you back?
Amanda is muted now.
I'll you unmute.
Amanda is muted now.
Okay, she's
Oh,
unmuted
boy.
now. Okay, Amanda.
Yes. So Amanda, you said that that medication is not used. We've seen that in some situations, in some prison situations, that there is that, and that's one of the things that we intended to speak about here. The whole issue of nature therapy. We see that birds in some instances and so are used in some prison situations. What is there any program like this in your situation? Hello?
She get kicked out. Uh-oh. She get kicked out, Pablo.
Wow.
Yeah, she got to sign back in. Angela?
Oh, Brother John, Murphy is really misbehaving this afternoon.
I know. I think Dr. Ferguson is trying to
Murphy is misbehaving this afternoon. Oh boy.
Yeah. Wow. Let me take a song and come back.
Yes.
Right, something, yeah.
I don't know what's happening. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we hear you now, but you went off a while ago.
Okay.
Okay, folks, you listen to Gem FM. We are in the middle of having a discussion on mental health and therapy, nature therapy, trying to assist.
And now I try to sound just like you. But I would like to let those people know. For 14 long years, Baron did leave and go. 1979 is when I came on the scene. Then Baron came back in. But I don't sound like the Baron. For your information, the Baron don't sound like me. So when I'm singing my tune, I know you're a sweet croon, not just me and me. Even when I'm dressed in some fancy style of fashion, or wearing some costly jewelry, they talk about they see me talking to 4 or 5 women. They just say I try to be like you. But it's one thing that they don't understand. But I love it done and plenty action. I just love nice things and I am being friendly. Yes, it makes me happy.
Yes, we're back. Just cut it right there. Pablo, back to you and Mrs. Combs and Amanda Combs and Dr. Ferguson, Angela. Folks, you're listening back here again to Raphael Paul, host of the show, Message to the Grassroots. His guest is Dr. Theodore Ferguson, Amanda Combs, and Angela Golden, talking about keeping our eyes on nature therapy with mental health issues and how it helps to relieve persons from further sinking into the crisis. So right back to Pablo.
Yes, thank you, Brother John. Ms. Combs, you said that medication does not figure greatly in your intervention. What about nature therapy? Do you use any form of nature therapy? Because we see that in some cases, birds are used. We see that generally speaking, there's studies that have been done as to how nature therapy can be healing or can be transformational in terms of people's behavior. There's one study that says because anxiety, stress, and depression affects US college students now at alarming rates, and you did speak about those challenges to young people. Another study that's been published, it involved college-age adults. Uh, Nature-rich environments unequivocally helps reduce mental distress. And the studies compared those in urban areas with those in natural environments. What is also revealed was how little time it took to impact these students. It showed that by spending a minimum of 10 minutes, either sitting or walking in a wide range of natural settings, there was a significant and beneficial impact on the participants' mental health. Scientists use key psychological and physiological markers to measure this. So has there been any such interventions from your end in terms of addressing those issues? Because from what you said, the percentage of such situation among young people is very high.
Okay, yeah. So nature therapy is very effective. Like I believe with those outcomes that you just listed, the statistics, and especially for depression, like we know that spending time in sunlight does increase like feelings of happiness and helps to elevate people's moods. Spending time in nature, going for walks, going on trails, spending time with family and friends, doing outings. We know also if you are in an environment that may have been traumatic or you've had a traumatic experience in that environment, leaving that environment as well and going into a different environment, whether that's outdoors or indoors, can also play a major role in increasing your mood. But most definitely, yes, vitamin D has a great significant impact on increasing people's moods, and especially when it comes to depression and it comes to anxiety and to spending time in nature. People find it very healing. People find it to be very relaxing. White noise, for instance, listening to sounds of the ocean when you maybe are living with insomnia, having difficulties falling asleep, listening to the sounds of the rain. These are things that are tools that have been quite therapeutic for many of my clients.
Have you used anything like where animals are involved, rearing of animals, birds or anything of that sort?
I've never personally had to use animals for any type of intervention for people who are living with psychological disorders, but I have used, for instance, we have something called like squishies, where they're like almost like a teddy bear, but when you squeeze it, it has like a very soft texture, sort of like petting a cat or like petting a dog, and that seems to relieve many people from their anxiety. Yes, so pets can also be very effective when it comes to people that are experiencing mental health problems. Yeah.
Well, it's really interesting because from our end, tell you the truth, I never knew about that kind of therapy, where with animals being part of that therapeutic intervention with people within the prison system. And it was the same Dr. Ferguson that drew it to my attention, you know.
Yeah.
And it's so sad that he's unable to really join us.
But it shows that his mic is not muted. Like I'm seeing it shows.
Well, no, it's, yeah, I don't know why he's not showing, he's not able to really
I
speak
don't
with
know.
us. from that
I really want.
from
Did
that
he
end,
try? Did he try calling in? Can he call in? No.
you know.
I'll send a number for him to call in as well.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
please do
I
that.
really would like to hear him speak.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well,
Pablo, you want to try calling him and ask him to call me? Give him
yes,
my number to call. Yeah, do
let me
that.
just go off
Yeah,
momentarily and
yeah. Okay, and I'll just talk to
see if I can get him
Amanda.
for
Yeah.
a little while, because we have just about 22 minutes to go.
You know, I'm home today, Pablo. I'm in studio for the day, so I could give you the extra time if you need it. That's not a problem. Angela,
The thing about it, I have another
you're
session
on a
today, so
session to go to.
that's why I have to get on. I have to
Yeah,
get up at
okay.
3:30 today. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So Angela and Amanda, you guys working really, really close with the prison system and the youth and people who have faced gun violence. In recent times, we have seen an increase in violence on the TTC, whether the train, the bus, and just the subway itself. Most recently, last night, we saw a young lady being attacked by someone in the subway. How much of that you think is mental illness or something to do with some troubled-minded person? Amanda?
Oh, sorry. Can you just repeat that? It chipped out.
I say in recent time we have seen an increase, or what seems
Yeah.
to become a phenomenon in the subway system, on the
Oh,
bus, the
yeah.
train, the subway. How much of that you think relates to mental illness? Persons just needed help, but they don't know where to go for help. They still linger in the street, and it could be the young person stabbing somebody, another young person on the bus. Is this out of
Yeah.
control, or just mental illness altogether? A person to know to cope with certain things around them, and that causes them to have this outburst into violence.
I think it's a mixture of a little bit of everything, because many of the cases that we're seeing in media, and when we find out after somebody's apprehended, it is indeed a person that has been living with mental health issues who is unhoused, right? And we have a shortage of shelter systems in the city of Toronto to help provide support to many of these people who often ride the subways as a way to stay warm, right? And these are people who are riding the subways that may be living with psychotic disorders, right? Where they're having hearing things or having auditory hallucinations with voices that are telling them to do things, right? Or they end up attacking people. And then sometimes with our younger youth, it could just be anger issues. And we find that idleness as well, as we've seen in the news with those group of teenagers that just randomly met up on the internet and decided they were going to drink and go out and just cause mischief, right? So there's many contributing factors. Yes, mental health is definitely a significant one, but I think at other times it's a lot of anger issues, and then sometimes just people not thinking before they participate in actions that can take someone's life.
What is the difference between mental illness and just someone who have who choose to just be violent to other because they have other issues that they don't get attention, and they use it as a way of attention? Is it necessarily call it mental illness, or just someone who have a intolerance for a certain environment or certain people, and the best way they feel to do that is to become violent with somebody else?
So typically we describe like a mental illness or a mental disorder. So that means you have been diagnosed by a doctor and you have something that's clinical as a mental health problem that's affecting your ability to carry out like your everyday activities. It's affecting your everyday aspect of life. So you're unable to do the things that you normally would have been able to do. You can't take care of your kids anymore. You've seen a deterioration of your social circles, your friendship with your families. You're not able to work anymore. Basically a deterioration of like all aspects of your life, that's when you know that it's something that you definitely need to see a doctor about, because you're not able to focus or do the things that you normally used to be able to do on a regular basis. It's affecting all areas of your life. Whereas there's many people that have a mental health problem, maybe they get anxious every now and then, they might have PTSD if they're triggered by
Hello?
a certain stimuli in an environment, but it's not
Hello?
necessarily affecting their ability to focus.
Dr. Ferguson? Okay, hold on, Amanda. Dr.
Okay.
Ferguson?
Yes, I'm right here.
Okay, hold on a
Oh,
second.
yay.
So we can put you in the system here, right here. Go ahead, talk to me, hear you?
Are you hearing me?
Yes, I'm
Yes.
hearing you. We hear you. Okay, go ahead. Pablo? Okay, Raphael Paul is waiting. Okay. Dr. Tiedo? Okay. Want to make some get some volume here. Okay, I'll do it this way. All right. So when you're Dr. Tiedo, I'll wait for Pablo, but you go ahead and introduce yourself. Go ahead.
I do leadership development training. In addition to that, I call it a hummingbird haven. So it's really a little nature haven.
Okay, hold on. We got a noises in the background. Hold on, Doctor.
Oh, sorry. Oh,
Okay. Okay, Pablo is back. Pablo, go ahead with Dr. Ferguson. Go back and go.
Dr. Ferguson, you
Yes,
hearing us? Okay, well, it's a pleasure to have you, and welcome. Finally, we are hearing your voice. We were seeing you and not hearing you, and now we can only hear you. We have you calling because we have only 15 minutes, and I know your time is limited. What specifically you intended to focus on? You're not hearing me?
Okay.
You're not
Hold
hearing me?
on. Hold on. I know probably why you're not hearing you now. Hold on, let me see. Okay, go ahead, Pablo. Ask him the question again.
Brother John?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Dr. Ferguson, you're hearing me?
I'm not hearing him.
You're not hearing Pablo?
No.
Okay, try now.
Oh.
Pablo, go ahead.
Dr. Ferguson, are you hearing me now? Hello? No, nothing. He doesn't seem to be hearing me now.
Okay. Dr. Ferguson? Okay. Raphael Paul is trying to ask you a question here. Hold on. Let me see if I'll do it a different way. Pablo, go ahead. Ask him the question now.
Okay. Dr. Ferguson, can you hear my voice?
Yes, but you're breaking up.
Oh, whoa. Yeah, because oh boy.
Go ahead, Pablo. Go ahead. You should be fine. Go ahead.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You're hearing me clearer now?
I hear you better, much better.
Yes, well, we have just a few minutes with you. And so we wanted to get from you, what's the specific of what you wanted to address here this afternoon? We have Miss Amanda Coombs, who's been here with us, and she's been speaking about her work with young people and how the kind of therapy and the kind of intervention that she has undertaken with them in terms of addressing various challenges that they face. And I know you wanted to speak about certain kinds of intervention with young people. Can you just give us an insight so as we can set up when we finally have you on the program, what we'll be talking about?
We have a situation, and it's still a developing situation around the Caribbean.
in which our young people are highly disconnected from nature.
Okay.
Everybody wants the bright lights, everybody trying to go to a big city. And in the process, we are not part of the nature that surrounds us. Because this island's all about nature. We sell the nature to our visitors. People come for rest and relaxation and to enjoy the scenery and enjoy the life in nature. But we ourselves seem to have forgotten about that. And something is happening across all the islands, in which we're seeing a lot of antisocial behaviors. A lot more young people in our prisons committing some violent crimes. I think I heard earlier that we have a lot more murders in the Eastern Caribbean than we've had before. And the problem, fixing that problem requires a whole new approach to what we call development. We can't separate ourselves from nature and expect to be sane and balanced human beings, because nature is part of what keeps us balanced, keeps us anchored, and is also what helps us to hold ourselves together as individuals. Nature is a powerful therapy for calming us and reminding us of who we are, reminding us of the spiritual side of ourselves, and putting us into others, keeping us in a state of awe. To have feelings of awe, perhaps that's the most powerful feeling that we have, that can keep us sober, sane, quiet, and thinking objectively. When we lose touch with nature, we lose a lot. I'll give you one big example of that in the St. George's area of Grenada. You know, the Botanic Garden served a powerful purpose. When I was a youngster in Grenada, it's a place that you can escape to and people could go and walk, and it has a way of quietening you. You hear the birds, you smell the flowers, you smell the other vegetation, and that has a way of tempering your behavior. And we've taken up all the open spaces we have in St. George's, whether the gardens or the seaside areas that we all enjoyed, and we've now built it up with a lot of buildings. And what do the young people do now as a way of, I call it chilling out, other than look at the phones, look at the televisions, and get in a very disturbed world. And when you spend a lot of time immersed in a disturbed world, and that's what comes to you on those media. You have a way of losing your sense of focus in life, and you don't have much time to do some deeper thinking. You don't have much time to do some introspection of what people may call meditation, and you can easily get lost. But we can certainly hold ourselves in a better state if we have a good anchor in nature. If we understand the power of nature and what nature can do to help heal a society and heal a community, and to keep our young people sane, so that they don't display that antisocial behaviors that we see all around us at the moment. I think we have a better chance of building a great society. We have a better chance of getting the young people to discover who they are, to discover their purpose, and to live more sane lives, more spiritual lives. So I think it's an important part of our development. But we seem to have we have lost touch with nature. Everybody is hustling for the life of the screen and the light of the town. Take one thing that has happened in the last 15, 20 years. All the young people have headed for the southern part of the country to be part of the tourism world. Living in little shacks and shanty towns scattered around St. George's. But that's a terrible situation. That's just looking for trouble. As they try and, because the only place people can find employment in any quantity these days is around the tourism industry. So people are moving out, but where are they living? And the conditions under which they live in is horrible. This lives disrupted. So folks, I think we have to rethink the whole business of development. I think we have to rethink the whole business of education. But recently I started doing a little project on the birds of Grenada. Pablo knows them. Establish a website, just a page rather on Facebook, Birds of Grenada. And I'm horrified that most people in Grenada have no idea of the birds in Grenada. They don't know the names of birds. They lost sight of all these things. And nobody's looking to see a bird or spend some time studying a bird. It's as though they don't exist. That's
so, Dr. Ferguson, if I may just comment here, you mentioned about development and so on, and the fact that everyone is moving to the south because of the situation, the focus of finding jobs, and our disconnect that is happening or has happened with nature. Given the fact that the modern world that we live in, the measurement for success is having a good education, which means getting your degree and whatever else, and being able to have those material possessions, which indicates that you have succeeded in life and so on. What do you think needs to be done, right, in order to get to that space that you're speaking about? Because the measurement for success, and we are being taught from childhood that these are the things that you have to aspire to in order to be seen as a successful person. So how do we balance the two?
We have to reevaluate the whole concept of success, because we are destroying our societies rapidly as we pursue the path that we are now following. And I don't believe we should continue to go down that path. I've discussed with you, Raphael, remember, bringing some of that teachings into our education system, get the kids a little more conscious of nature. And that's not difficult to do. It fits into so many different courses that they're already doing. In terms of biology and sociology, it's just a matter of getting a curriculum written so that kids can get more involved in the world around them, rather than in the world that they're aspiring to go. But you have to get involved, you have to keep close to nature. We have forgotten about nature. A lot of what I'm sharing with you, I got out of my own, a lot of part of my life. I was one of those kids who bought into that way of life very early, striving to get all our degrees and so on and get into the bright lights. And about 25 years ago, I discovered some things that changed my own life. And the first thing that changed my life was getting to understand that I'm capable of taking greater control of my life. I don't have to let the world around me control my life. That was the first thing. And the second thing that got to me is that the tools to help us to do that is right here with us. It's free. And when I started walking in the forest in Trinidad, I wasn't sure why, just that I knew I couldn't have had enough of this world of business. And I needed something more to hold me together and to help me to pursue my purpose in life. And I found nature to be a very powerful force. So I'm speaking out of my own life's experience of what it can do as I know what it has done for me in helping to make life a lot more stable and enjoyable.
Okay.
And you know
Well,
what we
it's
call a good life, Abdul?
yeah. Well,
Good life.
it's 2 minutes to my it's two
people my
yeah. Dr. Ferguson. Well, it's 2 minutes. It's 2 minutes to our scheduled cutoff time. And you yourself did say that you do not have extra time to give today. And I myself do not have extra time to give today because I am headed to another session shortly. So can you just in the next 30 seconds, just set us up for when we do have the opportunity to have, to have a proper conversation with you on all of these matters that you've been raising.
I'll put it this way. We can live a good life, what we call good. Or we can live a great life. I'm shooting to have all of us enjoy the great life.
Okay.
A life of better health, in particular mental health. A life where we can really discover this thing called happiness and have a sense of contentment so we can enjoy our lives better. Too many people have got to my age and discovered they've been living for all the wrong reasons. Sometimes younger people, it's hard to explain that to them. But there's another way to live, another way to look for the great life. And we have to begin to rethink how we live and the quality of life that we live.
All right.
And
Well,
my
yeah.
idea is to help us to think a little more creatively and to help our young generation that when they get to ages like mine and yours, Pablo, they can live with a big smile on the face, feeling a sense of joy and happiness, and being connected to nature, which is living a much more spiritual life. Spirituality is not just about religion, you know.
Yes,
It's a
I
lot
know.
more than that. But how we are connected to nature and connected to ourselves.
All right. Well, I think we're gonna leave it there for now. Yeah, and thank you for your patience and being able to stay connected and to finally get some words from you. But we'll be signing off here shortly. I want to get, before we go, I want to get some final words from Ms. Coombs, seeing that you have Dr. Ferguson speaking about nature therapy and the whole issue of the impact on mental health, which is what we've been speaking about mostly for the afternoon with Miss Amanda Coombs. Miss Amanda Coombs, are you hearing us? Yeah, some final words from you, because we definitely will have to have you back. Miss Amanda?
Amanda? Hello, Amanda?
Miss Angela Golding? She seemed to be having some difficulty getting it. Well, in any event.
Oh, I chased them away.
Well, in any event, time has run out on us. And as me and Brother John usually say, Murphy really behaved badly today, and the Murphy's law say, if something can go wrong, it will go wrong, and it really did go wrong today. And we were really set for a wonderful and a great, a great conversation today. Well, I hope that those of you who did join us, that you would realize, the depth of and the essence of the conversation that we could have had, the issues that would have been highlighted here this afternoon, and that you will join us next time around. But I've got to go. It's 3:32 on my end. I know it's 2:32 on Brother John's end. So I've got to go because I've got another session that I've got to get
All
to.
right.
But we definitely will be back speaking on these issues because it's so much about our young people and the mental impact, the impact on the mental stability, you know, which is critical. So we'll have to be having that discussion.
Yeah, I would like you to
sometime in the future.
I would like to connect with Miss Amanda Combs too, so we could we could liaise and have both of them back again.
Yeah, definitely so. Yeah, and don't forget, Saturday afternoon at 3 p.m. we'll be back here with the Message to the Grassroots program. Having 3 interesting guests, and we'll be speaking something that is more specific to Grenada, to Grenada's domestic issues and development. And that is the conversation we'll be having on Saturday afternoon. So please join us from 3 p.m. Grenada time, 2 p.m. US and Canada time. Brother John, I'm leaving. Yes.
Well, thank you again, Pablo. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to make it to work this morning for a number of inconveniences today. And happy to be at the West home, and my wife is here, but at the same time, she that today would have straight.
Yes, I know. It's just for today that you're home today.
Yeah, and being not technically savvy enough and stuff like that would have frizzle, pull off feathers a little bit. But I'm happy that I was here to
walk us through.
Yes. Yeah. So I look forward to seeing you again Saturday afternoon. 2 p.m. time and 3 p.m. Grenada time.
Yeah, but definitely I've got to go at this point in time.
All right.
Bye, everybody.
Pablo, have a blessed evening, my brother.
Yeah, you too. Bye-bye. Yeah.